I didn't find out my wife was using me when she got pregnant. I knew long before that. And the truth is, I didn't stop it. That's the part that changes everything. In the beginning, it didn't look like control. It looked like love. Small adjustments. Quiet sacrifices. Doing more so she wouldn't have to struggle. And I did it willingly. I paid for things she couldn't afford. I took on responsibilities she didn't want. I made her life easier in ways that felt normal at the time. But over time, something shifted. The help stopped being temporary and started becoming expected. My paycheck wasn't mine anymore. My time wasn't mine. Even my decisions started revolving around what she needed next. And the more I gave, the more natural it became for her to take. Not aggressively. Not obviously. Just consistently enough that it stopped feeling like taking it all. That was when I noticed the pattern. And once you see a pattern like that clearly, you have a choice. You can interrupt it early, force things back into balance, and deal with the resistance that comes with it. Or you can let it continue and see what it becomes when nothing stops it. I chose the second option. I didn't pull back. I didn't question anything. I didn't set limits. Because limits create awareness, and awareness leads to caution. I didn't want caution. I wanted certainty. I wanted her to believe that everything she had would always be there, no matter what she did. And once someone believes that, they stop thinking about consequences altogether. Once I understood what was happening, I stopped thinking about it as a relationship and started seeing it as a system. And systems, once you understand them, can be shaped. I didn't reduce what I gave her. I increased it. Every time she expected something, I made sure it arrived faster than she asked for. Every time she crossed a line, I acted like I didn't notice. Not because I was blind to it, but because I wanted the pattern to grow without resistance. I paid for everything. The apartment, the trips, the image she showed the world, things she couldn't have maintained on her own, but didn't have to question because I made sure nothing ever failed. And over time, something predictable happened. She stopped checking, stopped considering limits, stopped thinking about what would happen if I wasn't there. Because from her perspective, I always was. That was the part I needed. Not control in the obvious sense, but certainty. The kind that makes people careless. Because once someone believes their environment is stable no matter what they do, they stop preparing for the possibility that it isn't, and that's when the structure becomes fragile. Not on the surface, but underneath. I didn't interrupt anything. I didn't correct her. I didn't remind her where the boundaries should have been. Because boundaries would have slowed everything down. I wanted the system to expand to its full size, to become something that couldn't adjust quickly if anything changed. If you knew someone was slowly building their life on you, would you set limits early or let it grow until they couldn't function without you? Comment your choice. And by the time that certainty was complete, she wasn't just relying on me anymore. Her entire life was structured around the assumption that I would never leave. So when she posted that photo, it didn't break anything. It confirmed everything. Pregnant, smiling, holding another man's hand, like nothing about it needed to be hidden. Most people would see that and react immediately. Anger, confrontation, public exposure. I didn't do any of that. Because reactions like that don't solve anything. They interrupt the pattern too early. And I had spent too long letting that pattern grow to cut it off before it was complete. What she did wasn't sudden. It was the natural outcome of everything I had allowed to build. The confidence, the entitlement, the assumption that there would never be consequences, no matter how far she pushed things. That kind of behavior doesn't appear overnight. It forms when someone believes the system around them is permanent. And she believed that completely. That was the part I needed to see. Not the betrayal itself, but the certainty behind it. The fact that she didn't even try to hide it meant she wasn't protecting anything anymore. No image, no balance, No fallback. That told me something important. She wasn't just relying on me. She believed she no longer needed to. And that's when a system becomes most exposed, not when someone is careful, but when they stop being careful entirely. I didn't comment on the post. I didn't call her out. I didn't try to explain what she had done, because explanation would have given her time to adjust, to pull things back, to rebuild some version of control. And I didn't want that. I needed everything to stay exactly as it was. Unfiltered. Irreversible. Because once something reaches that point, you don't confront it. You remove the condition that's been holding it together. I didn't confront her after that. I didn't need to. By that point, there was nothing left to understand. The only thing that mattered was timing. Because removing yourself too early gives people a chance to adjust. Removing yourself too late reduces the impact. I chose the moment when everything still looked stable. When nothing appeared broken. When she was the most certain that nothing ever would be. That was when I acted. Not emotionally. Precisely. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't even acknowledge what she had done. I just removed the condition that had been holding everything together. Every payment. Every reservation. Every piece of support she had stopped noticing because it had become routine. The postpartum care center. The hospital appointments. The money. Everything I had already put in place for her and the child she expected me to take responsibility for. Not gradually. Completely. Because gradual change creates adjustment. And adjustment weakens collapse. I wanted to see the system exactly as it existed without me. Not the version she would try to fix once she realized something was wrong. For the first time in years, her life had to function without the one thing it had been built around. And the difference was immediate. Stability that depends on one condition doesn't fade when that condition is removed. It disappears. That was the part she never considered. Not that I could stop, but that I would. Because from her perspective, I wasn't a variable. I was constant. And constants don't disappear. Until they do. It didn't take long for everything to start breaking. Systems like that never do. At first, it was small. Payments that didn't go through. Reservations that no longer existed. Things that felt like mistakes. Temporary problems that could be fixed if she just called me. That was the assumption. That I would step back in and restore everything the way I always had. But I didn't. And that was when the shift began. Confusion turned into urgency. Urgency turned into anger. And anger turned into something much closer to panic. Because for the first time, she was facing a version of her life that didn't include me stabilizing it. The same voice that once gave orders now asked questions, then demanded answers, then begged for solutions. Not because she understood what had happened, but because she couldn't control what was happening anymore. That was the difference. For years, she believed she was in control because everything worked. But things worked because I made them work. And once that disappeared, so did the control she thought she had. When she called, I didn't explain anything. Because explanations create negotiation, and there was nothing left to negotiate. What she was experiencing wasn't a misunderstanding. It was the reality she had never prepared for. The house she couldn't maintain, the lifestyle she couldn't support, the image she couldn't keep up. All of it depended on something she had stopped recognizing. And for the first time, she wasn't reacting to something I said. She was reacting to something she couldn't fix. That was the moment everything became clear. Not just to me, but to her. Because losing money is one thing. Realizing your entire life only worked because someone else allowed it to is something else entirely. By the time it reached court, there was nothing left to argue. That was the part she didn't expect. She thought there would be a conversation. Some version of control she could regain if she pushed hard enough. But outcomes like this don't change at the end. They confirm what has already been built. Every payment I made, every expense I covered, Every record of support she had relied on without question. It was all there. Structured. Clear. Impossible to reinterpret. She tried it first. Denial. Then justification. Then blame. The same sequence people follow when they realize they've lost control but haven't accepted it yet. None of it mattered. Because the system she thought protected her was never hers to begin with. It was something I maintained. And once I stopped, everything connected to it collapsed with it. The court didn't need emotion. It didn't need explanation. It just needed evidence. And evidence doesn't care about intention. It reflects reality. When it was over, there wasn't anything left for her to hold on to. Not the life she built. Not the version of control she believed she had. Just the consequences of a system she never understood. And that was the part that mattered. I didn't destroy anything that could have survived on its own. I didn't take something that belonged to her. I just stopped being the reason it existed in the first place. And once that happens, there's no version of the story where things go back to the way they were. So be honest. Is this justice? Or did he let it grow just to watch it collapse? And would you have stopped early? Or done the same? Drop your answer below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.